The Astrologian is probably the prettiest of all the healers. Adorned in beautiful outfits complete with star patterns all over them, Astrologians... Oh, you didn't come here to listen to me gush about just how pretty they are. You actually want substance in a guide. Phooey. And to think, I had this whole thing planned out where I dissect their entire wardrobe for you. Well, there's always next time. Affectionately named by me. Yes, me, who else? The Our Stars There class. Astrologian is a very competent healer. I mean, I've done no death runs on the near raid and X content, so that's got to count for something, right? That said, they have one major flaw. It is awful to manage MP when playing this class. Unlike the White Mage, they have no assis. Instead, they must manage MP by using OGCDs or off-global cooldowns effectively, and if all else fails, abuse Lucid Dreaming. As an MP recovery ability, Lucid Dreaming is quite weak, but it's all we have, so get used to it. It has a potency of 50, and it gradually restores MP for its 21-second duration. I suggest using it when your MP is about 6,500 to 7,000. You might even want to use it a bit earlier, around 7,500 MP. Up to you, but in time, you'll learn a flow that works for you. It's awful, though, when you run out of MP with any healer, so don't use it too late in your rotations. Note that you should also use Lucid Dreaming whenever enemies have focused you. This will cause you to lose enmity, which is usually gained by spamming your AoE heals and regen too often. In regards to rotations, there isn't a lot to say. There are skills you should use in conjunction with one another, and I'll talk about them in a bit, but going in, healing is an art. I actually, at one time, never thought that I would be a good healer, especially playing on a controller. And now I'm just a stereotype. I started out with macros, in fact, allowing me to focus the tank and able to heal him while also attacking any enemies. Using macros reduced my DPS considerably, but I just wasn't fast enough to save my party without them. Over time, though, I learned the class. Soon everything started to click. I was then able to delete each of my macros, and I no longer recommend them to anyone. Also, right off the bat, I take the position that healers must also DPS. You are a healer, but if you aren't also DPSing, you are in fact letting your party down. There is more than a bit of a controversy about this, and so I thought I'd let you know upfront my stance. With that in mind, here is how I play the Astrologian Healer class in Final Fantasy XIV. I'll admit that even in 5.1, I still feel that the Astrologian is pretty weak until you get to level 62. This is because at level 62, you gain Earthly Star, an OGCD skill that is so important to maximizing both DPS and healing with the class. We'll talk in detail about why that is in just a moment. For now, let's talk about the Astrologian sub-level 50. At level 30, you get access to the Astrologian class at the Pillars in Ishgard. You will only have access to a single target DPS rotation until level 45 when you pick up the AoE spell Gravity. To start this rotation, we'll go into Diurnal Sect, then use regen on the main tank. Now we'll make sure to use Combust to apply our dot or damage over time attack on our tank's target. You should reapply that dot every 30 seconds. The next attack, Malefic, is one that you will spam so long as your party is doing okay. You always want to weave your OGCD spells first, rather than resorting to healing spells. This will help maximize your DPS and ability to cast without excessive GCD clipping. The main OGCD we will use to keep our tank always healthy is Essential Dignity, an insta-cast ability. Essential Dignity does 400 cure potency, but that potency increases as the target's HP decreases, up to max potency of 1100. That's why it's our main healing ability. Available every 40 seconds, it is a crucial skill to keep our party alive. I tend to use Essential Dignity whenever my tank falls below 35 to 40% HP. We only have access to one Essential Dignity charge until we reach level 78, where we'll get a second charge. As stated, the Astrologian class starts at level 30. While leveling up though, you might find yourself in lower level content. That's why it's important that our raise skill, called Ascend, is available to us even in the lowest dungeon. A level 12 skill, Ascend, is very expensive, costing 2400 MP, and also takes 7.7 seconds to complete the cast. At level 18, you're able to use Swift Cast, and so whenever possible, it's best to combine the two. I have a macro that I've set up, and it does this for you. It's the only ability I would ever recommend you use macros for, though. I'll show you how to create it near the end of the video, so stay tuned. Ascend will raise or resurrect any dead party member that you target. They'll come back in a weakened state though, so you should always keep that in mind. Another important role action that all healers have is Esuna. This is the spell you use to remove status effects like poison, slow, or heavy. Even in low-level content, ignoring them or being too slow to remove them can lead to a swift death. Esuna is about a 1-second cast, and priority should be to clear yourself of any ailments first. This is because healers tend to be very squishy, and statuses can make it much more difficult for you to heal. I won't even talk about repose. It puts enemies to sleep and is rather useless except in a few key fights. I don't recommend putting it on a hotbar for this reason. At later levels, you'll have bosses and enemies that can tilt the arena or push you off edges. You can deal with them with a role action you get at level 44 called Surecast. All classes have some ability to nullify knockbacks. This is the healer's ability for it. You can use Surecast every 2 minutes. The final important role action that healers have is Rescue. It has a range of 30 alms and will allow you to pull any party member to yourself and out of danger. You unlock Rescue at level 48, and it also has a 2-minute cooldown. Apart from OGCDs, if you need to heal, your most efficient spell is Benefique 2, but the most GCD efficient one is Benefique. You want to use your OGCDs and regen as much as possible when playing at any level content, given their efficiency. You won't have a regen spell until level 34 though, so more on regen in just a minute. Since Benefique has the added 15% possibility of restoring critical HP, it can be pretty useful. At later level difficulties though, I find myself using it much less frequently. The other thing you'll want to do to increase DPS is use Draw to pull out a card from your Divining deck. They changed this recently as the cards were a lot more confusing before. Now, if the border is blue, it will apply a DPS increase of 6% to a melee DPS or tank, meaning that you want to select a party member of those classes and use the play skill. If you screw up and give it to a ranged class instead, they will only get half the DPS increase, so 3%. Later, as of patch 5.1, a skill called Minor Arcana will convert your drawn cards into more powerful ones. All you need to know now is that if a card has a blue border, it's melee. If the border is purple, it's for ranged classes, including healers. The actual card type will matter when we get to Divination at level 50, but right now it doesn't. Note, your opener could be different depending on the situation. Before a boss, you'll likely want to apply regen and shields to the entire party. You won't have access to an AoE regen ability though until level 42 when you pick up Aspected Helios. Light Speed is another option as an opener, as it reduces MP costs for spells by 50% and reduces cast times by 2.5 seconds, making your spells in most instances instacast. I kinda like to save it for healing and tight spots personally, though you have access to it every 2 minutes, so you shouldn't neglect it. Level 34 gives us one of our most important spells as a healer. Aspected Benefique should always be cast on the main tank before any encounter. It adds a regen for 15 seconds. This is vital for keeping tanks alive. This spell can only be cast when under the effect of Diurnal Sect. Unless an encounter calls for something different, you want to turn on that stance. Later, and especially when playing with other healers, it will be crucial to use the right stance. This is because the effects don't stack with other healers, severely limiting your ability to heal. I'll talk about healing in 8 and 24 player content very soon. Don't worry, just stick around. Knowing how to share the healing with another healer is super important, even more so when playing the Astrologian class. At level 40, we will have picked up Redraw. We will then pick up Aspected Helios at level 42. That's an AoE heal that applies either regen, healing over time, or shields to all party members in range. Level 45, we will pick up Gravity, and now Gravity Spam is our AoE rotation. That's pretty much the only AoE attack that we will have until level 62, when, as mentioned, we will pick up Earthly Star. Lightspeed works wonders with Gravity Spam because of its high potency, allowing you to put out high amounts of AoE damage quickly and when you need to do so while avoiding mechanics. By level 50, we will gain a lot of useful skills, the first of which is Synastry. A skill that is often overlooked. It's awesome to set it up on an off tank while managing the main tank and add phases. Synastry is actually quite powerful. When you assign the skill effect to a party member, they recover HP equaling 40% of original spell cast. This means while healing the main tank, you will also in effect be healing the off tank, which is why I gave that example. Also, healing yourself has the same effect, so if a mechanic hits you and you need to heal yourself quick, you know that you're also healing the off tank in the process. And that 40% will stack on top of whatever healing you do when directly targeting that party member too. Super useful. We will also gain Minor Arcana at level 50. This skill is great because it allows us to convert any of our drawn cards to more potent versions. Lord of Crowns is for melee DPS and tank rolls, whereas Lady of Crowns is for ranged classes. Both of these converted cards will up the DPS percentage to 8% instead of 6% when placed on the right target. If you instead have placed Lady of Crowns on your tank, for instance, they'll only get an increase of 4% to DPS. That's still a 1% higher DPS than when placed on the wrong class with non-converted cards, though. Level 50 also gives access to Divination, and here is where a controversy of sorts comes up. I'm not sure which is better, doing a bunch of converted cards or using Divination. As you draw cards, you'll notice they have different seals. Those correspond to one of 3 seal types: Lunar, Solar, and Celestial. The Balance and Bolt cards grant Solar Seal, while Arrow and Ewer grant Lunar. Finally, the cards named the Spear and Spire grant Celestial Seals. We can use Redraw, which we learned at level 40 if the card we draw isn't the seal we were hoping for. If we have no Redraw charges, we can use Undraw to also place the card back in the deck. That allows us to avoid messing up our current seals until we draw the right seal. Why that matters is because Divination requires all 3 seals to be optimal. When all 3 seals have played out in combat, we can use Divination to give every party member within 15 yalms 8% more DPS. If you've only played 2 different seals, that decreases to 6%, and only 1 seal is 4%. It makes no sense not to go for the optimal DPS here. It will make a huge difference given the increase in DPS applies to the entire party. The thing is, it might be better to forgo this in favor of converted cards. It doesn't take that much time and it's easier to draw and redraw, as well as convert those cards for each party member. I kind of think this is up to you though, and either option is likely to be pretty close DPS-wise. Let me know in the comments below if anyone has worked this out for sure, so that we can have an answer on which is more optimal. Level 50 also has us pick up our second healing stance, where Diurnal Sect makes us more of a white mage with regen healing over time abilities. Nocturnal Sect gives us the ability to play more of a scholar role. When we use this stance, we can apply strong shields to party members at the cost of increasing all of our cure spell MP cost. It is for this reason that when tackling a harder dungeon like the Vault, I recommend people use Diurnal Sect. At level 54, Malefic evolves to Malefic 2, dealing more damage. We also gain Collective Unconscious. This creates a large AoE bubble that grants every party member inside it 10% reduced damage taken. That lasts 18 seconds, or until the healer moves or performs any action. It also applies an effect called Wheel of Fortune. When using Diurnal Sect, Wheel of Fortune gives all affected party members regen for 15 seconds. The Nocturnal Sect stance also applies healing over time, but only for 18 seconds. Wheel of Fortune in this stance also grants 10% more damage reduction per 20 seconds. Even facing a different direction will cancel the effect, so it's best that you're sure you won't need to move when using Collective Unconscious. That said, it's available to you on a cooldown of 60 seconds, and it's instacast. Level 60 is the second evolution of your class. You get another beautiful armor set, and you gain a powerful OGCD AoE heal called Celestial Opposition. Being instacast, you can use Celestial Opposition every 60 seconds. It adds regen or shields depending on your sect to all party members within a radius of 15 yalms. I'll talk about how the different sects change your spells a bit more in a few minutes. I just want to get through all the skills first. We finally made it to my favorite skill by far in the Astrologian's arsenal, Earthly Star. Another OGCD skill, you should use it instead of other DPS and healing skills whenever possible. This optimizes efficiency in encounters. It does 100 potency damage to all nearby enemies. More importantly, has a very high cure potency of 540 when prematurely detonated. If you can time it right though, and wait out 10 seconds, the cure potency will increase to 720 under Giant Dominance. The potency of its AoE damage attack, Stellar Detonation, also will increase to 150. Earthly Star also looks pretty amazing, and it answers the question, are stars there? As you light up the room in stars and a massive supernova explosion. It has a 60-second cooldown, so abuse it! As you may have gathered, the original DPS rotations of direct target and AoE haven't really changed. The only difference is the potency of Combust and Malefic as they level up. Speaking of Malefic, at level 64 it evolves to Malefic 3, and now it does direct target potency of 210. The AoE rotation at level 60 is Gravity Spam combined with Earthly Star whenever it's available. Generally, as I stated earlier, you'll also want to use Lightspeed. This level 6 skill will maximize their AoE DPS because Gravity will now be instacast. Again, Lightspeed lasts 15 seconds on a 120-second cooldown until you get to level 68 when the cooldown drops to 90 seconds. With Sleeve Draw gained at level 70, we now have a much better way to control our drawn cards. This is especially useful for playing the correct skills and maximizing Divination. Sleeve Draw will first draw a card and then grant 2 stacks of Sleeve Draw. This means it's possible to get a card from each of the 3 seals, Solar, Celestial, and Lunar, from using the skill. If that happens, you have a perfect draw, and you could use Divination and give your entire party an 8% DPS increase right there. You can also use the Undraw skill here. Instead of only putting a card away like before, it now consumes 1 stack of Sleeve Draw and draws another card. This is your best option when trying to get all the seals for your Divination skill quickly. At level 72, Combust evolves to Combust 3, and it now does a 60 potency dot for 30 seconds. As always in your rotation, you'll want to apply this to your main tank's target every time it's about to run out. We will weave our OGCDs and spam Malefic 4, which will also gain at level 72 when doing direct target damage. If you don't need to use Swift Cast for anything else and the party seems safe, you could Swift Cast a Malefic 4 after using Combust 3. You can also use this strategy at lower levels for optimal DPS. Malefic 4 does direct target damage of 250 potency. Now we gain Celestial Intersection at level 74. This OGCD skill has a cure potency of 200 and will add the opposite effect that's normally granted by your sect stance. Meaning, when in Diurnal Sect, you will erect a shield nullifying 200% of the amount of HP restored. The shield will last for 30 seconds. By contrast, if you're using Nocturnal Sect, it applies regen. Another OGCD learned at level 76, Horoscope, is a very strong heal for the entire party. With a radius of 20 elms, it sets up an AoE heal. Since it lasts 10 seconds, you have that much time to cast it again for a 200 potency cure. If you cast Helios or Aspected Helios during the 10 seconds, the duration actually increases to 30 seconds. The heal also increases to 400 potency. This is quite useful if you know something heavy is about to hit the entire party. Note, this is a setup ability at first. In case it's confusing, it doesn't heal twice. The final skill that the Astrologian has is also an OGCD, and you have access to it every 2 minutes. Neural Sect will increase all healing magic potency by 20%. It also grants your Aspected Helios and Aspected Benefic the effects of both other sex stances, meaning that you will have regen and shields when you use either spell. This works great when you want to give the entire party massive damage reduction. It can almost nullify some attacks, meaning that you won't have to heal as much through them. With all of our skills out of the way, it's time to talk about what changes between our healer stances. This is important when playing with other healers. As I mentioned before, your regen and shields don't stack with other healer abilities, and this includes a second Astrologian. So it is paramount that you make sure you're in the correct sect prior to any encounter. If playing with a scholar in the party, you will want to go into what is essentially a white mage stance. Diurnal Sect ensures that Aspected Benefic, your direct target heal, and Aspected Helios, your AoE heal, both grant regen for 15 seconds. Note, regen cure potency of Aspected Benefic is 200. Aspected Helios, on the other hand, only has 100 cure potency. Celestial Opposition also gets a 100 potency regen. Contrasting this, when playing with a white mage, you'll want to make sure that you're in Nocturnal Sect. That will make you function more like a scholar. This stance adds a magical barrier to Aspected Helios and Aspected Benefic. The shield lasts 30 seconds and nullifies damage equaling 250% of HP restored for your direct target heal, which of course is Aspected Benefic, and 125% for Aspected Helios, which is your AoE heal. In this case, Celestial Opposition gets a 125% barrier as well. When playing with another Astrologian, make sure you are always in the opposite stance as them. This is because, as mentioned earlier, your healing abilities will not stack with theirs, meaning that your party will not get both effects. Here is a macro that I created for making sure that my Swift Cast combines with Ascend to resurrect fallen party members. It's a very simple macro. First, /m error off. This stops that annoying noise when you can't use a macro. Then /AC or action, the name of our action in quotes, Swift Cast. Then me, in between a left angle bracket and right angle bracket. And this casts it on myself. Now, /wait1 to wait 1 second. The next part is what I personally use to set up the order of priority. This ensures that my resurrection is always used on the right party member. First, then AC, now ascend in quotes, since that's the raise skill for Astrologians. Then left angle bracket T for target, right angle bracket. This means I'll be targeting the tank, for instance, and it will resurrect them first, or whatever my target is. If I do not have a target, then the next part of the macro will play out, and it will replace T here with number 2, 3, and so on for each of the lines. This means it goes down the list and determines if any party member is dead, and it raises them in order. Since the original order of a party puts tanks at the top, followed by healers, then DPS, it's already an ideal setup. So my macro works well in every situation. Now /wait1 to wait 1 second, and then /P. This is the part of the macro that will echo out what we're going to use, Ascend, and whatever fun message we want to write. It's optional, but I chose the command here, then left angle bracket T for target, and the right angle bracket. This echoes the name of my target in chat as well. Due to a limitation of the macro, this can lead to some rather hilarious results. Sometimes when I go to resurrect a DPS, I had the boss selected, so now my message says, Ascend, Twintania. It's really quite fun. Choose whatever you want to write here, but know that echoing the command and using a resurrect macro alerts the other healer to what you are doing. This is good for ensuring you both don't try to raise the same target. As always, there's controversy here, but I'm in favor of raise macros. To finish the macro, we choose our icon with /mycon, then our ability in quotes. This keeps parity and allows our macro to be recognizable on our hotbars. I quite enjoy the Astrologian in Final Fantasy XIV. It has the one major flaw of needing to be far more present for MP management, but otherwise feels very strong. That is at least once you get past level 62. Its effects are some of the best in the game, lighting up the room with stars and constellations. Capable of dishing out heavy damage and a bit less reliant on cumbersome hotbars like the Scholar with its pets, they have strong AoE heals, and I always feel like I have a tool for everything thrown at me. The best way to play the Astrologian class is by utilizing all your OGCD skills and only using healing spells when mechanics call for it. On a final note, I don't think there is a single armor set from leveling up the Astrologian that I didn't like. They were all pretty amazing outfits. No matter how you play the Astrologian, you will always do so in style. If you did like this video, please let everybody know, and especially me because it means so much to me, by liking the video. Otherwise, you can always dislike it, but that might make me kind of sad. I really hope you're looking forward to my future guides. I currently have 8 characters at level 80, so hopefully I'll be able to do one per week or so, something along those lines, and I'll have them up for you. Let me know any other things that you want to know or need any help with anything like that in the comments, and I'll see what I can do to help. Subscribe to the channel and ring the bell, because if you don't ring it, then you probably won't hear from me very often. Also, if you're playing Final Fantasy XIV, I am the temporary leader of my clan on Diabolos, and it is called Her Eternal Reign if you want to look for it, or just comment or message me or whatever and I'll get to you on that. And as a last thing, please check out my Twitch, which is Miss Finality as well, as I continue to sort of evolve this channel and community around Final Fantasy XIV. Remember, Warrior of Light, the seas part for we alone.